Okay. Okay, everybody. So on today's podcast, as we scour the coasts all over the country here, North America, around the world, on today's podcast, I've got a guest that I ran into when I was at the show in Canada. And in that particular show, he had a super cool 55 bus that was there. And we got to chatting with him, and he builds engines. He's known throughout the east coast of Canada for some really nice restorations and a bunch of different cars. So on today's podcast, I've got Terry Gaudet out of New Brunswick, Canada. Terry, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Bill, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we got to get you on here. I was let me see. I'm getting my ducks in a row here. We met face to face at Greg's show there in Canada,
Yeah.
and you had that super cool 55 bus over there. We got to chatting and then talking to a couple of people. You've been involved in the VW scene pretty heavily over there in the east coast of Canada, and so we're going to kind of get into a lot of your history and all that. But the way that we always start the podcast, right, is how did you get into Volkswagens, and what's your VW story?
So mine's pretty common, right? My dad had a Volkswagen. I remember riding behind the back seat. So obviously, a lot of people remember that. You remember the sound of the engine and the heat from the engine. So that's my first Volkswagen experience. My first Volkswagen, mine, was a '69 Karmann Ghia convertible that was rotting in the backyard of our family home. My dad had bought that car years before, and it ran and broke down, and he shoved it back there and never really gave it any other thought other than when I was turning 14, he asked me what I wanted for my birthday. And I said that would be cool. So he gave me the car. We worked on it together and put it on the road. My dad was a drag racer, so of course we had a shop and we had tools, so that helped.
Nice. And that's 14. And I'm also thinking in Canada, right? Volkswagens weren't really super popular. I mean, it wasn't like the California scene, right? I mean, it's completely different.
Yeah, I mean, when I wanted that car, I really didn't know what I was getting into. I just saw it as a cool car, something different, and really had no idea what I was getting into. Learned how to work basic knowledge on cars. Of course, having known already a lot of good stuff because you follow your dad around drag race tracks and different cars that he's had over the years, and we always helped wrench, I guess, on the car and learn. So Volkswagens were sort of an easy step for me because we were wrenching on big block Chevys and supercharged methanol burning Hemis.
Nice. And so your dad being a drag racer, what was his? Did he have a bunch of different drag cars over the years, or did he have one specific drag car he'd race on a regular basis?
My parents got married in 1965, and the car they used to go on their honeymoon was a '56 Chevy with a, I don't know, V8, and it was a manual. So it must have been an Muncie or 4 speed and probably a
Right.
350 or 327. And the funny part is they were driving on their honeymoon, and my mom had just met my dad 3 months before. And so they get married quickly and they're on their honeymoon. And my mom would ask my dad, when are we stopping? And he would say, soon. And then she would ask again, when are we stopping? And he would say, soon. And, she had to go to the washroom or she was hungry or whatever it was. And eventually he stopped and they had their meal or she went to the washroom and they kept going. And fast forward 40 years to their 40th wedding anniversary. And my mom brought this story up, and my dad admitted, and this is funny because he never talked about it since then, that the car, of course, was a race car that was sort of on the street. And from what I understand, the starter on this engine was close to the header, so the starter would get hot. And if they stopped and he tried to start it again, sometimes the starter wouldn't turn over. So he had to find a spot to park with the hill so that he could, obviously bump start it if he had to. So 40 years
Classic.
later, we found out the truth.
Nice, nice. And so your dad is into drag racing as a car guy, so you're lucky enough to get to be raised around a guy as a car guy. Now, how does a guy who's a V8 drag racing guy end up with this Karmann Ghia that you purchase?
My dad used to be in the insurance business as an insurance broker, and this
Hmm.
Karmann Ghia ended up being a insurance wreck.
Oh,
And he
okay.
bought it from, I don't know, whoever, and it ended up in our yard. It was, if I remember correctly, I think it hit a telephone pole or a tree or something, and the left rear quarter panel was damaged, so they wrote the car off.
Oh, so
And
when you got this car, it needed total restoration? Like it needed all that fixed or was already fixed?
it wasn't fixed properly, but it was put back on the road for a bit, and my dad drove it, and then it something broke. So when I got the car, it was rusted to the ground and it needed everything. But what an excellent opportunity to kind of dive into something new and learn and figure it out as you go.
So now you get this car at 14 and you start working on it. When do you get it when you like finally get to debut this car that you finish or you finally just get to kind of pull this car out? I mean, no matter how bad it is, like you're excited to drive it to the local gas station or whatever. When was
Yeah,
that?
that was the week I turned 16.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Well,
And
technically, I drove it before that, but I wasn't supposed to.
and then the week you turn 16, you get this car, you take it out,
Yep.
and at this point, is there a big VW scene in the area? I mean, what's it like when you're 16? What are your friends driving?
They're not driving air-cooled Volkswagens. Nobody is, right? And the season here is short. I mean, we get a fairly harsh winter, I guess, and these cars we put away from November to May. And yeah, so I was the only freak, I guess, that had this. And even later on, when I started drag racing an air-cooled Volkswagen, I was the only one. I mean, it was hilarious. There's no explanation. I guess I just got hooked and I stayed hooked and I'm still hooked
And so your pipeline to staying connected to the scene, because now I'm assuming you've grown up in New Brunswick, this area, this whole time.
my whole life.
And so for you to stay plugged into the scene, and I'm guessing we're close in age. I'm 53, so I
I'm
think.
57.
Yeah, so you're substantially older than I am. I'm really young compared to you, but
Of course.
no, but us being in that, I mean, our connection, our pipeline to being connected to the VW scene was through the magazines. Now, do you remember any specific magazines that, like, for you, like once, because driving a Karmann Ghia convertible is driving something unique enough, something cool, fun. It's kind of like driving a full size go kart. And
Yeah.
then there's something, like for me, it was that Cat's Rag Bug in that 87 or the 88 VW trends. Was
Yeah.
there a particular magazine or something for you that just like stuck with you and it just kind of changed your trajectory or a particular car you've seen?
So there was a local guy here that was supplying me with parts because I wasn't really, um, now I sell parts to people, but back then I was just young and fresh and didn't know. So this local guy here would sell air cooled parts, and I got in touch with him, and then I think it was him or someone else gave me a magazine, and it was the Trends magazine or the Hot Volkswagen. I can't remember. And then I ended up buying from someone in the area here a box full of magazines from way back, which I still have. And some of these were Volkswagen Greats and can't remember what else, but they're not in publication anymore. So,
Right.
voraciously reading these things and learning, getting my hands on the Bentley shop manuals, going through those, referring to those before I take something apart, so you kind of know what you're getting into. And the car for me, if I go back far enough, would be anything from like the DKP area. I just like the 2 liter IDA rake cars with the BRMs.
Right.
And I guess the drag car that did it for me was the Jack Shacettie Save-A-Bug Pro Stock car.
Oh, there you go.
Um, and I remember going to a race in California in the 90s, and I'm going to get this date wrong, but anyway, the car was there. So I didn't, I mean, I met Jack, I said hi, but he doesn't remember who I am, but it was cool to see an icon, see the car, talk to the people, and then just made a bunch of connections with people from California. Jack became a good friend. I would go to the races and shows in California, and upon landing, I would get into my rental car and drive to Jack's shop and spend the whole day there with him. I always brought shop clothes so I could help out and do stuff in the shop and learn. And Jack's been
Yeah.
really good for that. And I remember one year I was there for the bug-in, and he had three motors in the shop. He had his own from his pro stock car, and he had Joe Mastis's motor there, and Joe was there. He popped in, and then it was Mark Protero or Proteo.
Hmm.
Mark had a pro stock, or maybe it was a super street car. I can't remember, but his motor was there. So Jack had three motors lined up on his bench, and he was going to build these. And this was, I'm going to say Wednesday, or maybe it was Tuesday. So he spent the whole day building um, Joe's motor first, and I think the next day was Mark's, and then the last day was Jack's. And he dynoed Mark's motor on Friday night, or I guess it would have been Saturday morning, maybe at 1 or 2 in the
Hmm.
morning, and then put it in the car. And I think we got 3 hours sleep and headed to the track and raced that day on Saturday. So, some people go on vacation and spend the week on a beach. I don't. I go on vacation and spend the week in a shop learning.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean it's one of those things where, you love the hobby so much, you just want anything you can do to get your teeth in it, is
Yep.
is part of the
Yep.
part of the thing, right? So with that, so you go out there, and what year is this you're out there
I
given
started going to California in the '90s, and I still go. But yeah, I started, and I mean some of the East Coast shows as well. The Super Jam in Pennsylvania, and there were some shows in New Jersey, and we made it down to the Carolinas for the shows there. So, and there was one in Maine, which is close for us. We would go there for that. So yeah, just every opportunity I could between, the family here, the kids and activities and whatever, I try to get away 2 or 3 times a year to get to shows in the US.
Now, what's the first car that you finished that you like? You have the Ghia, then what's like your next, passion to pursue? Because obviously you have the Ghia for a while, unless you still have this Ghia to this day. Because for some of us, we have the car, then we get out of the scene for a while, then we get back into the scene, we get married, kids, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Is your MO pretty much the same as the rest of us?
The Ghia had two configurations. The first one was a stock restoration. The second one was more of a custom job. And this, back in the '90s, I guess. So I cut the rear fenders and put flares, and I had mag wheels, and I had built a wing, and I made it a roadster, and I painted it Porsche red. And hey, everybody was doing that back in the '90s.
Right.
The car ended up, I crashed the car actually.
Oh,
Nobody got hurt, but I crashed it, and the car is gone. So sadly, that's gone. But I guess over the years, and this is starting in, um, I guess, '84 would have been the year I had the Ghia on the road. And getting into the '90s, I've had different Beetles. I've bought cars locally here. I found some far away, and they've all been, stalkers. Some were hopped up, some had big motors and different wheels. And um, there's one car in particular that keeps coming back. It's parked right over there under a cover.
yeah. What car is that?
It's a '67 Beetle that I found in Biloxi, Mississippi in 1995 when I was there on vacation with my wife's wife and her family. Um, we had gone down with them, and we were driving around the city looking for somewheres to eat, if I remember correctly. And I saw a Savannah beige '67 sedan parked on the side of the road with the for sale sign on it. And my wife knew right away that, something was going to happen. So I pulled in, got the number, called it, and spoke to a real nice gentleman. And he wasn't available then, but we met up, I think, the next day or whatever. And he ended up being a local sheriff. He was super nice. I looked over the car, and he asked me if you wanted me to start it, and I said no, you don't need to start it. He said, "Do you want to test drive it?" I said, "No, I don't need to test drive it." The car was rust free. It was a Southern car, and that's what we don't have here in Canada. So I was essentially buying the car for the rust freeness of the car. Um,
Sure.
So I bought it. I mean, it was cheap back then. I think it was a couple of $1,000. And we ended up towing that car back with a tow bar behind a Honda Civic, two-door hatchback. And it would have been about 2,800 miles
Oh
to get
wow.
it home. So that would have been 1995. And so that same car, I sold it to my friend Vinny maybe a couple of years later. He did the full restoration on it. Nice, Porsche red paint on it. He had it slammed and had some cool wheels on it. And then I bought it back in late 90 and I sold it back to Vinny, let's say in 2001 or something like that. And then I bought it back in 2003. And then I sold it to a local fella here. His name is Glenn in 2007, 8, 9, I can't remember. And then I bought the car back in 2012. So that's 4 times I've bought the
Right.
car. And then I sold it to my friend Dan in 2019.
Uh-huh.
And I just bought it back 2 weeks ago.
That's wild.
So,
And so this car, because New Brunswick up there, it's such a tight scene that cars kind of stay. If a car is worth keeping, they stay kind of between collectors, or is that kind of
yeah,
the deal over there?
it is. I mean, if a car comes up for sale on the east coast of Canada, people don't rush over here to buy it. I
Right.
mean, if a car ends up for sale in Vegas or in California, people assume it's a rust-free car and it's a good deal.
Right.
The
Right.
stuff here is assumed to be rusty, unless it's from a southern state.
Yeah. Last week I had that circumstance where a there was a sport Beetle, a '73 sport Beetle that popped up on OfferUp a couple years ago, and I messaged the guy 20 times, never responded. And then it popped up on Marketplace like a week ago. I saw it,
Okay.
and I knew it was a sport bug, so I drove over to this guy's place, and I got there, and I'm like, I'm buying this car. I'm trying to think, okay, I don't need this car, but I'm going to buy it, put it on the side for a future project, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I end up getting there, and this thing has got such bad rust on it. I mean, like it was an East Coast car for sure. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to talk me out of a car once I've decided I'm buying it. And it was, of course, I decided to buy it sight unseen. As soon as I got there, I was like a light switch. I said, nope, I'm tight on room, and I don't need this one. And I had people give me a hard time. You should have bought it to Sport Bug. I said, no, I'd
So
rather,
if you look right, I can't really tell, but the
yeah,
back you can see the roof of the metallic blue 72 Marathon Beetle
yeah.
owned by my customer. And that car has 792 miles on it.
Oh wow! And does it have so? Because what's interesting is, I did one podcast where we talked about late model Beetles and some of the
Yep.
specialty
I listened to
ones.
it.
Yeah, ones that they made, because I know they also had a Baja Beetle that it didn't have the stripe, but it had the blacked out trim and it had the Sport Bug wheel, and
Yep.
I think it may have just had regular high backs or something with a different headrest, but it wasn't the bolstered seats. But it's interesting how many unique and different late model Beetles that they had come up with, just to try
Yeah.
to, obviously it was to compete with the Japanese car market.
Yep.
So
Yeah. This one was in the Rocky Mountain Motor Works, or was it the Mid America Motor Works
oh,
private collection?
oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
those
it's a
cars are,
legit low mileage car.
yeah, those I just recently sold my Mexican Beetle, and
Yeah, I
that
saw you
had,
had it for sale.
yeah, I sold it 4,500 kilometers since new. And
Wow.
the gal I sold it to, she wanted to keep the Cosmics on it. So I told her she was on her own for the title. I gave her the Mexican paperwork, but just kind of said, in I think it's 25 years in the States, you can register, uh, you can retitle them with a stateside title. So,
Yeah.
but she's a police officer. So I said, you know what, you can, I'm sure you'll be able to work your way around it. So,
Yeah. Here in
but
Canada, it's 15 years. So it's we
mm,
get a little bit of a break there.
yeah, so I mean, and it's interesting because I've been looking at that stuff, kind of really focusing on. I mean, I'd like to get a sport Beetle. There was a sport bug there, a yellow one in Canada when I got there that was super nice, and I was kind of leaving. Well, they were leaving early from the show, and they were
Okay.
kind of parked away from the show, and I was walking to our rental car, and I said, "Man, look at this sport bug," and he's like, not a lot of people know what it is, and those people usually get trashed on because it's a super Beetle. And the guy
Yeah,
was pretty stoked that I knew what it was, and you know I've been every time I see one of those steering wheels, I just buy it because I know what it's from, and everyone's just like,
yeah,
"What's this funky, flat, fat, chunky wheel for?" But I've got a couple of the steering wheels and stuff like that.
yeah.
So eventually, one day, I'd like to add one to my collection, but I still have two or three more cars to finish before I can get to the point of like trying to do any refinement on the collection. But enough
Hmm.
about me. Let's talk more about you. So you're known for building engines there.
Yeah, I've
When
been doing that for 40 years.
So when now I know you were there visiting Jack and stuff like that. When do you build your first motor and kind of cross that bridge of capability to say like, hey, I can build my own engines. I'll just start. I mean, obviously because I'm assuming because being in New Brunswick, there's not a lot of resources there, so you kind of either have to be resourceful if you love the hobby or what. Walk me through that.
So in the 80s, there was a company on the west coast of Canada called California Import Parts. It's
Heard of
still
them?
owned by Steve Stanbridge. Um, Jeff Peterson worked there. There's a bunch of guys that I became friends with that were supportive. You know, they knew I was buying parts from them. I would call, have good conversations with them. They would walk me through different steps. And so my first engine I built was for my Karmann Ghia. So that would have been when I was 15 or 16. And my first big engine would have been in the late 80s. Big for then was a 1776. And then my first drag car motor was a 2275.
And that
And then
was
I
in
bought
the Herbie car.
the Herbie car. Yeah. Yeah. That was a car I bought from John Spirinello, who used to run John's Bug Shop in the Niagara region of Ontario. And he bought the car. It was a chassis shop pro stock car that was built and shelved. So it was never finished and never raced. And yeah, there it is. And so when John ended up, uh, I guess the story goes, I heard about the car. John was kind enough to give me some background on the car, so I bought it. I mean, it was sight unseen. I'm, I don't know, 1,000 miles away, and I just send the money and buy it. And then John goes and picks it up for me because that's the kind of guy he is. And it
Nice.
gets to his shop, and John falls in love with it. And I said, "Well, so what are you saying?" And he says, "Well, I really like that car." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll sell it to you, and when you're done, I'll buy it from you." So John bought it for me, and he put his motor in it. I forget what it was, but it was a good stout motor. This car was built, in the probably late '80s at the chassis shop facilities in Michigan. It was a strut car. It was a light car. It was a good build. It had a bus box in it, IRS. And anyway, John and his employee Jamie raced that car for many, many years. And when they were done, I got it and I built my own engine for it. And at the local track here, of course, I'm the only air cooled weirdo running car there. I was
Right.
running low 11s. I was hoping to get into the 10s, but I really didn't want to push it too hard.
And
And
it's an NA car, naturally aspirated.
NA, yeah, 2275 IDAs. Of course, Jack helped me with everything. He built the carbs for it, and he helped me with all the intricate, really down to the nitty gritty stuff like the cleveite rod bearings and things that you don't get from a normal parts shop. And the car performed flawlessly. I ended up selling that car because with kids and family and business because I was expanding the business back then. So I sold the car to a guy in Sweden, and then it ended up in New Zealand. So it may still be out in New Zealand somewheres.
Oh
And
wow.
then yeah, and then if you fast forward to before the pandemic, so I'm going to say 2016 or 17, maybe 18.
Hmm.
There was Jack Shacettie's old pro stock car, the one that he had back in the '90s that he won the championship with, I think 5 years in a row. It was purchased by the Siegfried and Bly guys in Ontario, Canada, and they raced it for many years. And Brian Bly had it for sale on the Samba,
Hmm.
And there it is. Yeah, that was a really lightweight car, and an incredibly well built car. And anyway, Brian and his partner drove. Well, his Siegfried was a driver. Brian was more the brains, but the car was raced in Ontario, Canada, and probably at many tracks in the U.S. for many years. And he had it for sale, and it was for sale for a bit. And we agreed on a price, and I picked it up and I brought it out here. And the first call was to Jack Shacettie, and I sent him a picture of that car in my shop here, and I said, "Guess what?" And he just freaked out. I mean, it's amazing to see how things go for full circle.
Yeah. And now, do you still have that drag car?
Unfortunately not. That car at about 100 miles an hour in third gear decided to turn right into the guardrail.
Oh no. And
Yeah,
were you driving it when that happened?
yeah,
Oh yikes. And then
yeah.
so that car was kind of wadded up from that thing, huh? That's not good.
It tagged the wall pretty good. I had it in here. I took it apart right away after I could walk again because my right knee was pretty blown up, and I had some ribs that were either cracked or broken. They didn't want to do any X-rays, and of course, everything else hurt when you hit a guardrail going that fast. So I
Yeah.
took it apart, figured out what it needed, and started to make a list. And then it just, I don't know, you get busy and start doing other things, and it stayed in the back of the shop here for a few years. And at one point, I got a call from a race car guy from the States who asked me if I still had the car. And I said, yes, I do. It's about a foot and a half shorter in front. And I sent him
Right.
pictures, told him what happened, and he was like, "No big deal." He's a car builder, I guess, a race car builder. So he didn't even blink. So I would say 3 years ago, I towed the car to the Windsor, Ontario border, so on the Canadian
Hmm.
side, and he came across from Detroit, and we met up at a parking lot somewheres, and he grabbed the car and threw it in his trailer, and off he went back into the States. I keep in touch with him on a yearly basis just to kind of check in and see how things are moving. He's collecting parts because he wants to restore it back to exactly the way it was when Jack was racing it.
So
And
is that the old Save-A-Bug? That's not the old
yeah,
Save-A-Bug car, is it? Is it?
yeah, yeah,
Really? Wow.
yeah. That car was what started it all for the whole pro stock a career of Jack Sacchetti.
And what? So now a side question, right? I'm thinking logistics in my head. So most race cars don't have titles,
That's right.
and so how? So you have to tow the car across the border. Just saying you're just going across the border and you're and you're doing a
No,
transaction in a parking lot. This guy, or
yeah,
you know,
I told the guy I was not crossing the border with the car. He had to be the one to cross over.
oh, gotcha.
So I stayed in Canada. He came in. Now the good part is he called U.S. Customs before
Hmm.
doing all this, and he asked them what he had to do, and they
Hmm.
told him, and he followed all the rules. So he came into Canada, grabbed the car, went back into the U.S., and did whatever paperwork he had to do, and everything was fine. Like it
Oh,
wasn't a big
nice.
deal. You just got to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's well, it's just that's the first thing pops into my head because unfortunately, there's a guy in Canada that was reaching out to me on my Mexican Beetle because he lost his in a fire, and
Mm,
when he and I were talking, he says, "I just don't know how I could get it." And I thought, well, I could just drive it over there and then just take a plane back or whatever the case is, But we just never kind
yeah,
of got to dealing out the details because for him, he's like, once I get it here, I can get a title for it. Not a big deal, obviously, because of the difference in the timeline that you can get. And I never wanted to switch the car from the pan, but yeah, that's just a question I
yeah.
had when I'm sitting there thinking that you're selling a race car back and forth across the border. So what was the best time that you ran that car?
Same thing, low 11. I these cars I shifted at what was it, 6,800. So I didn't want to blow anything up. I
Oh
like
yeah.
going fast, but not crazy fast.
Yeah, I was talking to I was recently at Adam Wick's place. He's going through one of my Type 4s for me, and
Yeah,
he was telling me when those guys were racing, they're shifting their motors at almost 9,000 RPM on some of these
yeah.
motors. So I thought 6,500, 7,000 makes me grit my teeth. But these guys are
Yep.
they're on another level, right? So, and then of course
Yeah. I mean, they
they rebuild their motors all the time too. So
purpose built, high compression, they got all the right stuff in there. And it's,
yeah,
I mean, a lot of the cars in that RPM range have roller lifters and a better profile camshaft so it can keep up. So you don't have springs, flopping all over the place, valve springs. So
yeah.
the engines will live if you do all the right stuff and get all the right parts.
So now when you start building your own motors and figuring out like I can do this, you start getting into the habit of building your drag bug and stuff. So now that you become the guy out of I don't know how many of you are in New Brunswick, but now you kind of become the local engine guy for a lot of people.
Yeah, I wasn't the only one because there were a few shops around that would work on air cooled stuff.
Oh, okay.
Not only air cooled stuff, but they would work on them. I was more the nights and weekends kind of guy because it never really has been my full time gig. Although now I don't I have other stuff going on, but I don't work full time in the shop. I just put the hours that I need to and make sure that the projects are up. Whatever timelines the customers give me, I try to stick within that. And of course, I have my own projects. I got a 65 bus that I'm building for the Shasta snow trip. And I have a double cab that I'm putting a bigger engine in. And I have, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah, let's talk about it's a perfect segue for us to talk about what your new project is. I saw your post, which is what triggered me. I've got probably 20 of these tentacles out there. I run into people like we should do a podcast and we exchange information, and then I get life and everything, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I've still got to close these loops, and that's I saw your post about the barf bag bus. You're referring to it as, is that right?
Yep. That's right.
So
So bus, this bus was parked in 1984. In Nova Scotia, Canada, inside a barn or a shop or whatever. I wasn't the one that found it, but a friend of mine did. And he called me when he ended up getting the bus. He knew I was looking for a project. And yeah, that's the six sack. It's a motion sickness bag that I found in front of the bus.
right,
So that's
no,
hence the nickname, barf bag.
I like it.
Anyway, so this bus, I did some research on the M code, and it's Canadian delivered to Montreal, Canada, 1965, 11 window combi walkthrough. And it's got some patina on there, but it's actually not as bad as it looks.
Yeah,
So
I
I've
mean,
been
listen.
doing some rust repair underneath, trying to keep it solid.
Well, I mean, I'm from Las Vegas, so from where we're at, I mean, it looks pretty bad. I mean, I'm the kind of guy that walks away from this.
It,
But you do have long winters over there, right?
yeah. Well, yeah, we do. So we get all kinds of time to work on this stuff. So I've got a bunch of Gerson and autocraft panels, and plus it's easy because it's Canada. So if I buy stuff from CIP, I get it shipped. I don't deal with customs or duties or taxes or whatever. So I get
Right.
stuff here within a week. It's great. And so this bus is going to be a Shasta bus. It will be running a big nut transmission with a .82 fourth gear, I do believe, and a 388 ring and pinion. So it'll help with the top speed, if you will, running down the road.
Yeah. No, I've got a big nut in the limo bus, and the limo bus is stock height. But this bus looks from these images, it looks like is it lifted in the front?
No, it's just there's no weight in it, so I guess it's sitting a little high.
Okay. Yeah, because
And the
and
tires on there are like the BF Goodrich KO2s.
nice. So you haven't done the Shasta snow trip yet, but that's one of your future plans to do the Shasta snow trip in this thing next year. Well, wait a second. Hold on. The Shasta snow trip is
I
like in February, isn't it?
Yeah,
So so this bus will be
Yeah. So our plan would be to tow the bus down in a tow it down in a trailer, and then of course from there do the run, and then tow it back home.
so right now. Are you doing? You're obviously not doing a restoration on it now.
No, I'm just
Okay,
doing the rust repair, metal work, and the transmission. The big nut is completely rebuilt. The motor is built. The kingpins were done in the front. I got all new brakes for it. So essentially, it's just once I get the rust repair done and I blend in the spots that were replaced with fresh metal. I don't want the bus to look fixed. I want it to look patinaed. And
nice.
yeah, you know,
Well, that's no, that's cool. I'm digging that whole thing. So, as far as I mean, and obviously you'd be a bigger expert on this than me, but from the standpoint of buses that are quote unquote rusty, right? Is this bus to you? This is a salvageable bus. This one right here.
if you have the two main frame rails and most of the floor still
Hmm.
intact, to me,
Yeah.
that's an easily salvageable bus because I'm not replacing any of the top hats or I-beams. I have very little floor work to do. Of course, I need to do outriggers and rockers, but that's, every bus is like that. Um, so to me, I don't have to rebuild it like the bottom 2 feet. I just need to rebuild the bottom 6 inches.
Okay. And so for you, I mean, especially on a lift like that, I mean, it's a little more. I mean, my whole thought when it just comes to rust is like, how deep do you have to keep going to get rid of the like? And with your history in fixing cars like this, can you tell kind of where it's from depending on how far in the rust got, or can you tell the difference between a car that was in a wet climate versus a car that was driven in the snow? Is there different characteristics of the type of rust that they get?
I mean, I spent a lot of time in Florida and Georgia and, I guess all the southern states that are warm and damp and salty. And some of the cars down there are just as bad as the ones here. I mean, they just rust different. They rust from the top down. Ours rust from the bottom up. So essentially, when I buy cars now, I make sure that they're from, California, New Mexico, Arizona. Those states will always churn out some good, solid project cars that I can easily fix with, just mechanical restoration.
Right. And now you said you're doing so you've got this one built it. So what's the motor setup for Shasta? What are you doing for drivetrain?
It'll be a 2007, so 78 by 90.5.
78 by 90.5. Now what's making you pick the 2007 for the engine combo?
It's just the parts I had on the shelf here. I had a new mag case and it was all machined for that already.
Oh, okay.
Got
And what are you
good
doing for
CV crank and
camshaft?
rods.
What kind of camshaft?
FK8
An FK8, huh?
and
And then heads, you're going to run what heads on it?
40 by 35s, probably a CB Panchito style head, just nothing crazy. It's in a bus. I don't need flow. I just need torque.
Right. And carburation?
Dual 40 IDFs, Webers.
Okay. Yeah, so it should be a nice torquey motor. Now, you've got your double cab that you said you're doing another motor for in that thing right now.
Yep.
And what's the motor going to be in the double cab? Because I've got a motor in my double cab too.
Yeah. No, I don't have a Type 4 motor like yours, but I do have a Type 4 motor here, actually. I bought the case
Nice.
from, can't remember if it was Wick or maybe it was Fat Performance. It's a Type
Hmm.
4. It's punched out to 104 millimeter, and it's clearanced. And so it'd be like a 2.6 liter, I guess. The pistons are 104 Arius, maybe, or Venolia. I can't remember, but that'll be a motor for someday. I'll build and put it in something. But the double cab, I just want to go with like a 1776 or, whatever. Again, I got shelves full of parts that I've been collecting over the years. So I'll just go through it and find a combo and build the engine.
Now, have you ever, with all the cars you have, because your double cab is stock, um, Your bus is kind of stock but modified, right? Your
Yep.
55 that you've got here. Put a picture of that. So that's the Lost Boys bus. That's the one that I saw that you had,
Yeah.
and it was now it's got now give me the story behind this bus, behind your 55 bus.
So it's an October 55 bus. It is a Canadian bus from out west. Eric Cleland, who lives in Ontario, Canada, found the bus out west, towed it over, and he did the paint and restoration on the bus. So he located an SO23 interior, installed it in the bus. He had the motor rebuilt, transmission rebuilt, and he was selling this bus in 2012, I think,
Hmm.
and I bought it. I had it shipped here. I've driven it a lot since then. I've been on many, many road trips. I've upgraded the brakes. I got Willwood front disc brakes. I have the transmission in that is also a big nut with the 388 ring and pinion. The motor is a 2074 cc, I do believe, with dual Cadrons. It's a great little torquey motor. It's wonderful driving bus. I can go on a road trip and enjoy it easily, going up hills, but not necessarily going 85 miles an hour. But it pulls its weight. And the cool thing about that bus is when Eric restored it, I do believe back in the 90s, he did not have access to all the, Autocraft and classic fab panels. So he
Right.
meticulously made his own repair panels, which he did a really good job. And the bus was astoundingly solid. It was something that was parked apparently in a field in Saskatchewan, which is a province in Western Canada. And yeah, Eric put in the, sweat equity to get this thing built and on the road. And I was lucky enough to buy it from Eric. And yeah, there's my wife and I. We're doing a trick or treat, I guess, at
Like
Halloween with the
the
bus. And
trunk,
yeah,
the trunk or treat. Yeah, I dig it.
trunk or treat. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, we enjoy it. We use it as a camper. We have a local group here in Eastern Canada called the Circle of Friends. It's
yeah,
a Volkswagen Westphalia camping group. They have events throughout the summer that we get together and move around. There's certain different campouts, I guess, in different provinces here. And what's wonderful about that group is you have everyone from everywheres.
yeah.
They are, 18 years old or 85 years old, and they all love Volkswagen campers, and they all either have one or they had one. And getting together is just a wonderful experience. Camping in one of these, with no washroom, no amenities. It's not tent camping. It's probably like a step up from camping on the ground in a tent, but
Yeah,
it's a
dry
cool
camping.
experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, dry camping. Yeah,
dry box camping. And
yeah,
so, I mean, you've had just a storied amount of cars. Now, did we talk about why it's called the Lost Boys bus?
yeah. No, so here's the deal. In
Okay.
Peter Pan, the movie,
Hmm.
the kids are and they're in Neverland,
Yeah.
and Neverland is full of lost boys.
Yeah.
And I'm part of an organization in Austin, Texas, that built a school for marketing. And this school has on-site student housing for people that go there to learn marketing and branding. And
Hmm.
they stay on campus in these housing facilities for the students. And there are different buildings on campus. And not the latest one, but they've been kind of working on adding student rooms.
Hmm.
And the House of the Lost Boys was one of the things that they were planning on building. They ended up building Lost Boys cabins
Okay.
instead. So they're really cool little A-frame cabins that
Uh-huh.
are self-sufficient. So the students stay on campus in these cabins. And the first cabin they built was the James Dean cabin. The idea behind the cabins, the Lost Boy cabins, is that it's to commemorate someone who died too young.
Got it.
So James Dean is one that died, obviously way before his time. The next cabin is the Janis Joplin cabin. And I
Right.
do believe there will be 6 cabins in all, and they will all be named after someone that died too young.
Right.
The James Dean cabin, the first one, I was lucky enough to participate in the construction of it as a donor. And inside, we put some quirky little things about, the Porsche 550 Spider and the whole
Yeah.
story and history of James Dean. I also actually bought from a studio in, I presume, I think it was in California when I bought it. At some point in the last whatever years, somebody made a movie about the James Dean story accident, and they had a
Right.
prop car. They had it wasn't a real 550. It was probably a fiberglass kit car or something.
Yeah.
And in the movie or in that scene, they had a car crash and destroyed itself or whatever. The rear tail section of that prop car came up for sale at an
Oh,
auction
really?
in the States whatever how many years ago. And I won the auction and I had it shipped to the school. And that tail section of the car, fiberglass, is hanging in the visitor center of this school. So when people walk in to register, they look up and they see, something that brings memories back from the James Dean era.
Right. Oh, that's cool. No, I dig that. So, and you said that was now this is in a now how's the bus connect to the Lost Boys? So
So when I became a lost boy through this campus and being a donor,
mhm.
I always name my cars. Every car I have has a personalized plate on it. So I didn't really know what I was going to call this bus, and this was probably a few years ago where I decided to get that plate because I was a lost boy with the organization, and it just fit. It kind of fit. And since then, um, I would say in the last year, I ended up starting the procedures to get my own podcast going, which
Uh-huh.
is going to be the Lost Boy Bus podcast.
Nice.
And the episodes are going to be shot in the bus.
Oh, nice.
So that little
Very
dinette
cool.
with the 2 chairs and the table and all set up
Yeah.
cameras in there and lighting and microphones. And I will have this podcast about it. Basically, it's the 3 Ps: the people, which is always the most important,
Sure.
places. So I'll be traveling to and from cool places and hopefully interviewing people inside the bus, and projects. So my Shasta bus project is going to be the first one
Nice.
featured, but it won't be the last. We'll have, various different things that are happening in the shop here that I'm always working on that'll be part of that podcast.
Well, that's good. That's good. And so, and then with your school is a school on marketing, right?
Yeah, it's basically Disneyland for adults is what we refer to it as. It's a very
Okay.
unconventional business school,
Yeah.
and you only get it if you go there. People, I talk to them about it, and they don't understand. They don't understand the concept, but once you get there and you realize what they teach there and how effective it is, it's essentially understanding the human and the way humans react to certain things, certain words, certain contexts. And it's not about, yelling at the top of your lungs to try to get your message across. It's basically telling a story and pulling people in.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm a business owner myself, and I've got I've got 3 sons. Two of them are going to come work in the business. One of them works in the business now, and um, trying to explain to him, and I've got another younger guy that they both work for me. They're both millennials, and I'm trying to get them to understand the way. So I said, to get your team on board, they've got to see the big picture, right? And trying to get people to explain. I mean, it's easy. And listen, I've been one that's been accused of having a temper, because I don't mince words about things when it comes to, especially when it comes to business, right? Because from a business
Yeah.
standpoint, it's, and I think what happens a lot of times in most businesses is people forget, which I try to teach my team, like we have to go back to the top. We have to go back to the customer. Like the customer is why we're here. So we have to look at everything that we do through the perspective of our customer, from our performance to our communication to everything. And one of the things that's become incredibly challenging with the younger generation is communication, you know,
Yeah.
and it's probably the most, with the young millennial generation, and you may see it differently because you might be working with a lot of people that are, if they show up at your school, they're seeking to get better at what they do, which requires them, if they're thinking they can do better, requires them to reflect on their performance and crave to be better, not just say, why doesn't the world conform around me, right? Which is kind of a way that some of this younger generation has been maybe
Yeah.
mind
I mean,
mind warped, right?
this this school is certainly not mine. I'm just a student there, but it's humbled me many times. And it's funny because you'll sit in class one day and you'll have the owner of a Fortune 500 company sitting next to you.
Hmm.
And these are billion-dollar companies, and this person will look at you and we'll start having a conversation over lunch or during a break, because these classes are very intense and they're usually 2 or 3 days. So you stay on campus for long enough to get it. It's not just a 2-hour seminar where you go home and you forget all about it.
Right.
And these people have the same problems we do. It's all the same. That's why when I go to this school, when I had my business, I applied a lot of what I learned there in my business, because it's very unconventional but extremely effective. And so again, without getting into the nuts and bolts of this, it's a different, better way of doing things. And essentially, if you're in business, like you said, the whole a scale of, you're the owner, and then there's the different levels of people in a corporation. Most successful companies have a horizontal business scale, so nobody's above anybody else. Most of the successful companies that put the customer first not only say it, but they do it.
Right.
There's a thing about branding. You have external branding, is what the message you're telling everybody, the sign you have, and your, I don't know, whatever your motto is. But then you have internal branding, which is basically what you and your employees and business partners believe, and what you're
Yeah.
saying, and where you're going. So um, we depend a lot on anthropologists, people who study human behavior,
Hmm.
because as we move into the different generations, as you referred to millennials,
Hmm.
people are different. Not that, they still have the same brains, but they react differently. And it's not physical, and it's not chemical or biological, it's social. And as our worlds change, the kids are different, the teenagers are different, the adults are different, the retirees are different. So if you are selling a product or a service and you understand completely what you need to do to get these people on board, then you proceed effectively. If you are throwing money at a Google click campaign and you have no idea what you're doing, we're not going to be able to help you, because the first thing you have to nail down is the message. And
Right.
when we sit with our customers, we explain to them, listen, we need to spend 2 days at least with you, and do an uncovery and kind of figure out where you're at, where you're going, and who you are and what you're all about, what you stand for, what you stand against, this whole package of understanding. And once we get through that, we deliver a playbook to the customer and tell them, you don't have a mission statement. You don't have a bunch of words on a wall that nobody reads. You have this. This is boiled down to the very basics. This is human behavior. This is cognitive understanding. This is, tissue deep stuff. And you apply this and you work hard. It will take a long time. This is not an overnight success deal. And that's how we grow our customers.
Yeah, it's not a crash course in success to where you take this
No.
class and the next weekend you've changed the world. Because I think the most interesting thing about operating a business, and it's more than operating a business, right? It comes down to our communication skills with one another, whether it be at home with your wife and your family, and at work. And the biggest challenge, and that's what I tell my team all the time. We have two problems. They're always come down to the same two root causes: planning and communication. If we can solve those two on every job,
Yeah.
we're gonna be doing great. The challenge is in most of our businesses we have the human element, and there's a lot to deal with that. Like you said, there's so many layers of trying to understand people, because every person you get is coming from a different perspective, whether it's
Mm.
personal experiences that have affected how they navigate through life. And what's interesting, my background, I'm a high school dropout. Um, my uh, my guidance counselor in high school. I mean, I was a kid, a product of a divorced family, mom and dad separated, low socioeconomic scale. I hung out with people that weren't headed great places, and I had a terrible attitude because I was being raised by the neighborhood because my dad was busy trying to work as a room service waiter to keep a roof over our head. And so I had
Yeah.
to get to a point in my life where I realized that the biggest problem I had was me, and kind of getting out of that. And
Mm.
it takes a lot. And I found out it's the hardest thing for people to do, is to honestly look inward and say, like, okay, what could I do better? How could I change something to affect the dynamics of what I'm dealing with? And I started in the business that I'm in as a delivery driver 30 years ago, with a
Mm.
goal of getting to $10 an hour. And in 2004, 2000 2006, I think it was. I was in Entrepreneur Magazine's Hot 100 Fast Growing Companies, ranked number 34, and it was from our jump in business, and it was just tile and granite contracting. But
Mm.
it was one of those things where I give all my people the same pep talk. I started at the very bottom. And the difference, I think, between me and my counterparts at work is I worked looking at everything that it was connected to my paycheck in some way. And if I could
Yeah.
be part of the big picture and try to make sure we're efficient and running as lean and efficient as possible, that money is going to make
Mm.
it to my check.
Yeah.
And I had my driver. My driver was finances, but for me, based on how I grew up, if I could fix finances, I could take care of everything else. You know what I mean?
Mm.
If money's not my problem, then I can solve all my people issues for the most part. You know what I mean? With respect to
Yeah.
relationships and people and those kinds of things. And so it's been an interesting journey, and I've always really enjoyed um, mentoring younger people, especially people that come to work for me, and everyone that's come to me, I've given them the chance. But again, I we can only, as business owners and leaders, we can only go so far, and then at some point they've got to pick up the slack and pull the rest of the way. And I've seen I have this conversation with my son a lot. He's like, I just don't understand why they won't do this. And I said, because just some people are never going to do that. So you just have to, it's part of the equation, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's, owning and running a business has been definitely an interesting experience, especially with no formal experience, everything self-taught, um, only going to seminars and classes to try to get more insight or perspective on things. But and
Yeah.
and now it's interesting turning it over, like not turning it over to my son, but kind of, I told my kids, I said, go listen, be smart, go be a pilot. I said, I said, a pilot has the pay of a business owner, the schedule of a firefighter, the responsibility of a bus driver. I said, if you want one life hack, that's the life hack. Go be a pilot. Airline pilot is like, to me, stress-free living.
Yeah.
So now the penalty for failure is high, but you know,
Yeah. You can't pull
it's
over and stop in those.
no, no, but no, it's definitely. it's definitely been interesting, and kind of coming from a business background. Sometimes it's frustrating in this industry that we work that we have our hobby in, especially with you. You're involved with a marketing group, and you look at some of the things around you, and you think like, who's marketing this? I looked at a flyer for church the other day for something that was going on, and the smallest thing in print was the date it was happening. And I can't tell you how many times I pick up a flyer or I look at something and I go, when is this? What? Where is this? You know,
Yeah.
and there's so many people get just caught up in so much stuff when it comes to marketing about, having this flyer that looks really cool and you're like, wow, this really looks cool. I want to save it, but it's not telling me anything.
Some people think that marketing and branding is the color of your logo or the font of your lettering, and
Right.
it is not. It's the story you're telling. And
Yeah.
every time we work with people, we have to tell them to, before they keep wanting to go faster, and we keep bringing them back because it's essentially ground zero and even below that. So whenever they think we're ready to move on, we're not even close. So we have to
Yeah.
keep bring them back, figure out where we're going, what the goals are, what, everything. Before we start even telling a story, we need to know what that is. And so it's a very, very painful process because we're going all the way back. But it's the only way you can effectively tell a story is to tell it genuinely and from your um, sort of the very first day of where everything started is where you got to start telling your story.
Yeah. No, it's definitely it's what's made life very interesting for me is being a father, an enthusiast, a business owner, all the things that I am wrapped up in one, and
Yeah,
how much overlap there is in all of it. Because again, to me, and again, my heritage being Greek, I did after I dropped out of high school. Later, I went and got my GED, and then I took one college course. I left construction. It was 93. I'm looking on the internet, like trying to pull up job salaries.
yeah,
And I bit the bullet, went back to Circuit City installing car stereos for probably, it had to be 6 months. And I started taking accelerated college course. First class took was Psychology 101. And because now I had a purpose, I aced the class. I got an A in that. Loved the class, but I couldn't deal with the suffrage of of going without the money I was used to making, sleeping on my friend's couch. So I said,
yeah,
"Listen, the gap between me and what the professionals I'm going to go to school for 4 years are making is not that far, and I can close that gap in shorter time than I can to do this." But my son said that to me a few times. My youngest, he says, you dropped out of school and look at you. And I said, yeah, the difference, son, is I have holes in my shoes, not by choice when I was your age.
yeah,
And I said, and I'm not taking anything away from you. I said, you have to look at your life from the standpoint of my dad came here from Greece and that's where he got me. And I've got to build on that. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
so it's interesting. And, one thing I love, again, I love to mentor kids and I'm heavily involved in my church, so I'm heavily involved in mentoring youth and giving kids opportunities and giving them opportunities to lead, because giving kids an opportunity to lead is gonna, and the thing is, it's just like work, right? Not everybody wants to do it. There's a lot of people that shy away and just don't want to lead, but I love to see that in a young person's face when it's like, I don't know, what do you think? And it's like, wait a second, someone cares about what I think, you know.
yeah.
And it's been incredibly rewarding on all aspects, So I think it's one of the best things you can do, and one of the best advice um, that I've heard, and I've often re-given everybody else, is I said, if you see someone that's successful, ask them what it took to be successful, because successful people are always willing to share what they know. Because there's often times that we reflect and go, man, if I was 30 years younger, I'd skin this cat a whole different way today, but
Yeah.
it's definitely been interesting, and it's good. It's good to be involved and go to stuff like that, because it definitely makes it makes a difference long term, and that really that's what it comes down to, right? How many people can we affect going forward on a positive level to where we can contribute something beneficial to one another? So and that
Yeah.
and for me, I often equate. I've said this once before on the podcast where I equate my church group and my VW group like similar kinds of people, right? Like I know for us to be here into this hobby, it requires us to be a little different than the norm. And we're
Mhm.
into something that it's gonna test us, right? Like this Volkswagen is gonna break down and leave you somewhere, and you're gonna want to
Yeah.
hate this hobby, but because you love it so much, you just take it for everything it's all about, and you're like, you know
It's
what? It's go ahead.
the cars are what got me into this, but it's the people that kept me here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a good group of people, and with the same respect, like when I go to church, we're all equal. We're all the same people. It doesn't matter your
Yeah.
background, your income, or any of that kind of stuff. We're here because we're enthusiasts and we love the hobby, and we're always willing to share. I mean, there's always a turd in the punch bowl every now and again, right? But for the most part, we're always willing to share and kind of help each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many parts I've given away and stuff like this, and I do it because it's like, hey, I've got this piece not doing me any good, but this guy needs it. Take it,
Yeah.
and it's been so great. And what's funny is as we were talking about that, I was thinking earlier today. I was listening to another podcast because that's how I got into doing podcasts because I listen to podcasts, right? And so
Mm.
um, they were talking about Volkswagens and the hobby and everybody having a connection to Volkswagens. And in 2003, there was a documentary came out on the Fine Living channel, and it was the history of the Volkswagen. And toward the end of the documentary, they start talking about customization of Volkswagens. And there's a short clip that's probably about 2 or 3 minutes, and it's Randy Carlson, Bob
Yeah.
Hole, and it's me. I'm in a short clip in that video, and that's the quote that I said. Right, this is going back 20 years ago, and I just debuted my red and black bus at the VW Classic, and I said, the coolest thing about Volkswagens is everybody has a connection to them. I
Yeah.
said, I drive my Buick to the gas station and I get a bunch of people tell me their uncle, their grandfather, or someone they know, older person had one of those cars. I said, but if I drive my Volkswagen, everyone has a direct connection to that car. And so
Yeah.
I'm going on record with saying I said it in 2002. So, but it's definitely good that, the hobby's been able to give me something to where putting the podcast together, which this is episode 341 that we're doing now. So, and it's
Mm.
it's a job. I mean, it's work, but
Yeah.
it's so worth it. And when I look at the podcast that I have, like with Gary Emery, right? I've got
Yeah.
two with Gary Emery, and he just recently passed away.
Yeah. I
Um,
saw that.
there are so many people that they're gone from here, but their story, I still have their story, which is just so cool because for all of us, it's just it's a personal experience where we see that car and we're just like, nah, this car is
Yep.
cool. But from that car, we build this whole network of friends and relationships and all that stuff. So yeah,
Speaking of story,
it's been
I'm
awesome.
just
Yeah.
going. I'm going to pan into a car here. I can't remember if I sent you a picture of this one.
Oh
This
yeah.
is Cinco.
Yeah. What's the story on Cinco?
So Cinco is a 55 bug that I had been chasing for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And um, I found the car when I was driving around the city of Sussex, New Brunswick, many, many years ago. And I knocked on the door, and this older couple answered, and they said, "Hi, can we help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd like to buy your Volkswagen." And they said, "Well, it's not for sale, but come on in and we'll have a chat." So we started talking, and they were wonderful people. And they said, "We'll get your name and number, and if we decide to sell the car, we'll give you a call."
And
She opened up a book,
what year
and
is
there was
this?
probably 20 people before me. This would have been in the 90s.
Oh wow.
The car had 25,000 miles on it.
Holy cow. And it was parked outside?
No, they had it outside in the summer, but they parked it in the shed or barn in the winter.
So 25,000 miles on it. So you get put on the list of 20 people that are in line to buy the car. What did they want? What did they
Yeah.
want to ask you when they brought you in the house?
Just, have a chat because, they were kind, and I'm a Volkswagen guy, and they owned a Volkswagen. So we just kind of talked about the car and the history and how long they had it. They bought it new. And anyway, so fast forward, 25 years or whatever, and the car comes up for sale on the local interweb, and I contact the owner, who was not the older couple. They had passed, or one of them passed, and the car was sold to this collector guy.
Hmm.
And he was more of a Chevy Camaro Corvette guy, but he had a Beetle, and he, it was a cool little car. It was a local car. He knew the owners. So long story short, he was selling it. So I went to look at it, and he was asking a lot of money. And this is back in 2012. And so I passed. I passed on the car, and I told a buddy of mine who was looking for a car as well. And he went to look at it, and he gave a deposit, and he told the couple or the guy that he was going to go pick it up, whenever. And he had a change of plans, and he decided not to buy the car. So he called me up and he said, "Listen, I'm not getting the car. If you want it, you won't have to pay as much for it because I gave a deposit, and you could just use my deposit towards the purchase of the car." So I contacted the guy, and I said, my buddy's not going to get it, but I'd be interested in getting it. So how about we just deduct what he gave you for a deposit, and then I'll pay you the difference? And he said, no deal. He said his deposit was
Really?
non-refundable. Yeah, you got to pay full price. So I was
Wow.
like, okay, the cars and numbers matching, unrestored, 25,000 original mile, 55 oval Beetle. It's a Canadian custom standard. So in Canada, the standard models had, hydraulic brakes and some chrome, but they had the wing nut seats, and they had the black knobs, and they had specific things that made it a Canadian custom standard. So anyway, I bought the car, and I brought it home, and immediately took all the numbers off the car, and I sent them to the Stiftung Auto Museum in Germany.
Uh-huh.
And they sent me a birth certificate for the car. So I'm at work. I'm sitting at my desk, and this really cool envelope comes in from Germany. So I open it, and I'm on the phone with the customer. So I'm just kind of, going through this document and looking at different things. And it said, delivered to Canada and all that stuff. But the cool thing is, this car was built on May 5th, 1955.
Yeah.
That's the fifth day of the fifth month in 55.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's
The
wild.
car, the car had 25,000 miles on it.
That's
Um,
crazy.
I I picked it up on May 5th, 2012,
No way.
not knowing that the car was built on May 5th.
Wow. That's a lucky car.
Yep. So that's why I called it Cinco, because May 5th is Cinco de Mayo. And in 2015, when the car turned uh, 60, I guess,
Yeah.
we had a Mexican themed party here. We had margaritas and beer, and all kinds of. We had the local Mexican restaurant here cater some food for us, and my wife thought I was losing it. I was putting on a birthday party for a car, but yeah, this car is special to me. I've gone through it mechanically, so it's ready to drive wherever I want to go with it. I think I'm up to like 30,000 miles now, so I do drive
Yeah.
it, but
No,
yeah, it's cool.
that's an incredible story. That's such a cool car, and for the car to be there and for you to finally end up with it after seeing it so many years ago,
Yeah,
it's a cool story. Yeah, it's
yeah,
that's awesome, man. I think that's just one of those things where we you know from having from having that passion and pursuit to go after these things that you're just obsessed with, it ends up becoming
yeah.
something where there's the payoff there. But it's interesting because
You
the
you
50. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you have pictures of the gray 50 split that I also sent you?
Let me see. I should have pictures of that split. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the 50 standard that I purchased a few years ago. That's got a cool story behind it.
I don't
Um,
think I don't think I have a. Let me see if I have a full picture of
uh,
it. I have a picture of it lined up with some of your other cars here, so I'll just pull that up here in just a second.
yeah,
I'm just going
so
to go
that's
through.
a European 50 split standard, numbers matching, fully restored. And this car, the story is that the car was restored by Dr. Dick Christensen in
Oh,
Arizona.
Phoenix. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so that's the first one in the lineup there. That car, if you are familiar with the Return to Fatherland DKF run that was done in 1999,
Mm-hmm.
Bill Collins had a Hebmuller, and there was a bunch of other real heavy hitters in the early car world.
Yeah.
And this car was built by Dr. Christensen and sold to my friend Steve Hammond, who is a guy who lives in Maine and has a place in California and also in Florida. And Steve Hammond had this car for many years, and he drove it on the DKF Return to Fatherland Tour in 1999 from California to New York. They put it on a boat, they shipped it across to England, and from England, they visited some really cool castle somewheres in the UK where Major Ivan Hirsch, who was the guy that saved
Yeah.
Volkswagen post-war. He was still alive then, and he met them and had a private dinner with them, and then they had some drinks after, and he told them stories about back in the heydays of Volkswagen. So this
Oh
car
man.
was driven by Steve Hammond on that run. So when it came up for sale, Steve had sold it to a collector in California.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came up for sale, I bought it and I had it shipped here. It's a great car. Like I said, numbers matching. Being a standard, it's a 25 horse, of course, but it has cable brakes and the usual standard stuff. And I drive it weekly in the summer. I put a lot of miles on this car because it's a great driver.
Yeah, that's too cool. That is too cool. And you know that, and the great thing is these cars have been around so long that they've got so much history. You know, I was going through. I'm redoing the Bull Run bus right now, and
Nice.
I was going through some stuff, and like you found the barf bag, I found a map from Southern California, and I literally just threw it away because I'm like, what am I doing with this map? Because my garage just keeps getting more full and more full. But there was a like a trifold map of the San Luis Obispo area that was down in the front bulkhead as I was cleaning out the bus when we were just going through some stuff on it. But you know, these
Yeah.
cars, I've often toyed with the idea of making a video about the Bull Run bus because when I found that bus, I found it in '92. I quit my job at a stereo shop, drove with a friend from Vegas to Reno, and we found it in Goldfield, Nevada, which is like a little tiny town about
Mm.
halfway, about 150 miles from Vegas. And I have pictures of it on my website on Let's Talk Dubs, where you go to the About Me or My Cars, and I have the picture. I have a picture of the Polaroid I took when we found it back then, and the license plates. I had matching front and rear plates, but those were no good to me, so I sold those at Pomona for like $50. And but the tags had expired in 1976, meaning that the bus was parked when it was 9 years old, and it somehow ended up in Goldfield, Nevada, of all places. And it was,
Mm.
you know, someone pilfered the transmission. But I always thought it would be neat just to do a video through the eyes of the bus and everything it's been through all these years, you know,
Yeah.
and all the different things that it's seen, not to mention, you know, not to mention the different characteristics of all the owners that have owned it. But I just thought, you know, what a cool thing it is. If you listen to the podcast, you've heard me say this reference before. When you're watching that Corvette Summer, I
Hmm.
remember seeing that movie where Mark Hamill just rebuilds that Corvette, and I mean, to look at
Yeah.
it today, you're just kind of like, yikes. But I mean, back back when I was a kid, and I'm 10 or 11 years old watching that thing, that was the coolest thing ever to watch this guy bring this car back. Which for
Yeah.
me, it always made old cars. I think it had to be that movie that just gave me that perspective, like all these things
Mm.
can be saved and kind of put back on the road. And with my love with a hobby, I just see all these cars like they all have an individual soul, which some people that aren't car people would think that's a foolish thing to say, but I just think it's cool. And the stories with all these, and I know that a bunch of people, well, a few people, they started doing those California caravans, and I was on the one 2 years ago. I wasn't able to make it last year, but they're going to be doing another one between Hessich um, and European Bug-In this year coming up. So I have a friend that shipped his car out, and I've been contemplating on shipping one of my cars out for that because it would just be, listen, we're at that point in our life where it's like, if we can muster the means to put it together, why not? Because it's all about experiences at this point, right?
Well, my ultimate goal, and I'm still hoping this happens. I'm hoping to make it to Hessisch next year, and I would love to take the 50 split standard
Oh yeah.
to the to so have it shipped from east coast of Canada. There is a shipping port called Halifax, Nova Scotia, and
Hmm.
if I could container the vehicle and have it shipped to Amsterdam, then I could pick it up there and use it for the Hessisch and the Eurobuggen.
Well, I'll be there with you. So whether I'm going to have my own car or not, that's a different story. But for sure, my buddy Russell's got a car. I think I could borrow. But
Yeah.
for the European bug-in, I would probably ship out. And that's the tough part, right? Because Zorba was built in the UK and no one's ever seen it. It was built there, shipped here, never showed in the UK. It would be cool to
Mm.
drag it out there for that and take it on that caravan because there's going to be a bunch of us caravanning from Hessich to the Euro bug-in. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's so
There's
what's the
the
so the cars behind you are part of someone's collection that you're helping them get
that's
them
the
prepped.
50. Yep.
Oh
That's the
yeah,
50 split standard right there.
nice. Yeah, it's a little shiny. That's pretty shiny paint there for a standard.
Yeah,
Looks
this
good.
car was painted. It was painted in the '90s, so it's the
Yeah,
restoration is impeccable. Dr. Christensen really did a good job with his cars, and in fact, Christensen built. Let me just show you another one back there.
yeah.
Dr. Christensen also built this car, which is a Zwitter convertible
Oh wow.
with
Yeah,
a Auto Technica dual carburetor engine in it.
yeah. That's a rare car.
Yep. And then this car is a January 49,
Yeah, that's cool.
completely restored. These are not my cars. These three cars here and the three cars in the back there are all my customers, and I'm helping him sell them. So um, it's just cool to have them in my shop, so I can sit next to them and have a look at them and see what they are, and of course my goal here is to fix them and have them ready to go and for sale hopefully in the next few months.
So hopefully by springtime they'll be available for sale, and now
Yeah,
he's going to sell them through auction, or are you going to market these things and get them sold for him, or how's he doing that?
usually we'll just make a couple of phone calls. There's always people looking.
there's there's
Sometimes,
the inner circle of people that are like, if that car comes up for sale, phone me.
yeah, there's the Samba is always a good place to start because there's always people looking.
Right.
um Typically, like the last car my customer sold was a 79 convertible Beetle with 7,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
So that sold, pretty quickly because it was a completely original car with low miles and had been stored properly. And I think the car before that was a convertible 60 paprika red convertible that went to
Oh,
Seattle, Washington, Washington, I think. Yeah, I think it was Seattle. This blue one here is
Uh-huh.
a 61 Gulf Blue uh, California car that was restored in early 2000 or 2001. It was a multi-show winner in California.
Hmm.
It has a bunch of trophies in the back seat from back in the era. So it was a first place car for many, many years, I guess, probably right up to 2003 or four. And my customer was lucky enough to buy it, and add it to his collection. And so now I'm just, going through the whole car, making sure everything's right. And we actually have a interested buyer. So if we receive a deposit for the car, then I'll make sure it's ready for shipment, and it'll leave here.
So, out of curiosity, the Zwitter convertible, how how unique are, because that Zwitter on a hardtop has so many one-off parts and pieces. Are the convertibles just as bad or even worse?
I think they're all the same unique parts.
Mm-hmm.
I think the interior light would probably be different on a Zwitter convertible compared to
Mm-hmm.
the sedan. But I think the ashtray and the push button start and everything else that's Zwitter specific would be the same on the convertible. The cool thing with this car is it has the Auto Technica or whatever it's called,
Yeah,
dual
yeah, yeah.
carburetor engine. So it's kind of like an Ocrasa engine, but
Right.
a different kit from back in the era.
Yeah, my friend Henry had one on his 50 convertible. So he had a 50 red and black. Um,
Was
but
that
yeah, that's
Henry Marchena?
Marchena. Yeah, he had
Marchena,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, he had that Auto Technica kit. Yeah, they just had that Heb that well Heb's that Coach built Volkswagen at SEMA show this year. I don't know if you saw
Yeah,
my
I
video that I had on
yeah.
YouTube, but
So
did a
I
little
had
thing.
I was going to SEMA this year. I had my pass and everything, and something came up, and I was unable to go. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I try to make SEMA every year. It's kind of like a good place to see a lot of things and put in your 15 or 20,000 steps per day.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just, it's so big. You're just like, what's really worth me walking that much? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um, no,
yeah.
one thing we didn't talk about is a 67 convertible I see here in the lineup on BRMs. What's the story on the 67?
That's another story. So this gentleman, retired school teacher, was traveling from here to Arizona or New Mexico every year, and he had a GMC Argosy motorhome. So it kind of looks like an Airstream, but it's a motorhome.
Mm-hmm.
They were quite rare. And anyway, so he would drive this thing down to New Mexico on his holidays. And he bought this 67 convertible from someone down there. And it was an original paint, uh, unrestored car with fact or dealer installed air conditioning because it was from New Mexico, pretty warm down there.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing this car show up at our car show that we started putting on here in 93 or 94. And I fell in love with the car. I mean, it had the original everything. And it was not on BRMs, of course. It was a, factory stock car.
Right.
And fast forward, 20 years later or whatever, I kept bugging him. And he said, I'll sell you the car if you buy my other car. And the other car was a 73 Super Beetle sedan. And I'm like, oh, great, another rusty Super Beetle. So I went to look at the convertible just to confirm, because I hadn't seen it in a couple of years. And I peeked at the 73 Super Beetle from 20 feet away and I just rolled my eyes because it's like, yeah, whatever, it's just a Super Beetle. And we shook on a deal and I went to get the convertible first because that was my prized possession.
You had to
And
save the
then
vert first.
yeah, and then when I went to get the Super Beetle, it was dark outside and it was middle of winter and really cold. So I drove the car up on the float, and when I crawled under the car to hook the straps to it, everything underneath that car was as shiny as the top of it.
Oh wow.
And I kind of went, huh. So when I got the car here, I pulled it into the shop and I put it up on the hoist and I looked underneath and it's like, holy geez, this thing is just in rock solid, insane. The most solid Super Beetle I've ever seen, to even to this day.
Really?
So, oh man, and of course it drove like it was brand new. It had like 30,000 miles or whatever. It was a California car. And so
Unrestored?
no, yeah, completely unrestored. Like it was a
Oh,
dark
wow.
blue with a gray interior, if I remember correctly. It was a great, great car, and I kept it for a couple of years and sold it. Um, but this convertible is, it was a bucket list car for me. So I took it and went through the whole car mechanically. I replaced everything underneath that moved. Rebuilt the engine completely using NOS German parts. I secured 1,500, the 83 millimeter pistons from a German supplier, and like everything, just went through the whole car. And
Hmm.
I slammed it on BRMs. And those BRMs are actually from Bill Collins. Bill had a 67 convertible and had those BRMs on his car. It was the same color. It was, I forget what shade of blue that is. I think it's Zenith blue.
Yeah, Zenith Blue.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so I drove the car a couple of years the way it was, and I ended up putting it up for sale on the Samba. And it sold to a gentleman in Luxembourg, in Europe. And I
Germany?
think, well, next to Germany. Yeah, it's Luxembourg.
Okay.
And then he sold it to someone in a different country up that way, and I forget which one it was. So the car is over there somewheres, and I've been in touch with the new owner, and of course he's very happy with the car. And if I ever do get over to the Hesse Scholdendorf show in June of next year or the Euro Bug-In, I hope to be able to meet up with him and see the car again.
No, that's wild, man. That's been repainted, or that was the original paint?
Original paint.
How did he tow it behind the RV and not have any issue, or
Oh,
did he?
it had chips, but
Really?
it's the original paint. And I'm so
Wow.
glad he didn't repaint the car because it would have took away so much of the originality.
So cosmetically, cosmetically you didn't pull the car apart. You just mechanically went through underneath it, rebuilt the motor, and then just some soft goods, new top or the original top.
Original top, original headliner, original carpet, rubber floor mats, door
Oh, wow.
panels. I did have the seats recovered because the material was pretty dry and crusty.
Did you leave the air
The
conditioner in it?
No, I mean, just the pump weighs like 684 pounds. So
Yeah, you're not kidding.
I took all of that out. I left the console under the dash, but I
Uh-huh.
took everything else off the car because it didn't work. And I mean, I don't know. When you look at the engine, a '67 engine to me is a beautifully symmetric engine with the air cleaner that has the two horns on each
Right.
side and
Right.
the two warm air hoses that go up, and it just ruined the whole look of the engine. So I was able to source out some German tin because they had modified the shroud to clear the pump. And anyway, I rebuilt the engine exactly with all the right clamps and springs and whatever else that's on an engine that's from 1967. So all the Bentley manuals and the factory pictures from engines is what I
Yeah.
used to bring the engine back to originality.
Oh, so then you probably loved the 67, the Big Windows Witter podcast with Dean and Frenchie. Did you listen to that one?
Yep.
Oh, that's those guys could go on for days about the 67s, but
Yeah.
they're cool. They're really, as far as Volkswagens go, it's probably as far as the one that's most sought after from all of the kind of, especially the Cowlook scene. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
The '67 I bought in Mississippi was a rock solid car, and it was Savannah beige, and now it's Porsche red, but it's still an original numbers matching. It still has the original H case 1500 cc motor.
oh wow,
That Yeah. So when I got the birth certificate, I wasn't surprised. I mean, I bought this car from a southern state, rock solid, no rust, all original. Still had the original engine. It still ran beautifully. I rebuilt that engine in 1996. I'm going to say 95 or
hmm
96, It's still in the car and it still runs great.
Oh wow. Wow, that's the listen. This is incredible. There's so many stories and so much going on, and it's great to see that even in New Brunswick, Canada, on the edge of the earth over there, that there's
Well, you
VW enthusiasts that
in
are going
in
crazy about it.
in the pictures I sent you, there you probably saw there was a dragster in there.
Yeah, I did. I saw the dragster. Now,
So
was that
so
was that your dad's dragster?
yeah. So here's another story. So my dad had that car in the 70s, and it was called Blue Bayou, the Linda Ronstadt song.
Yep.
And that car in 1978, I think, is the year he bought it. It was
Hmm.
an ex-top fuel car from California. It was I forget who made the chassis, but anyway, he ran a big block. I think it was a 468 cubic inch, or maybe it was a 454, but it was running in the 8 seconds at 160 plus miles an hour in the late 70s.
Wow.
And he kept it for a couple of years, and then he bought a top alcohol dragster with the motor in the back. And so this car sold, and it changed hands a million times. But about, well, it was before the pandemic, so 6 years ago, we'll say, or maybe 7 years ago. Um, I was talking to a friend, and he said, hey, do you remember the old science museum over in Prince Edward Island? And I said, yes. On that property, they had a replica, full size replica of the space shuttle.
Uh huh.
And inside this building that looked like a space shuttle, they had a science museum for kids. So you can go in there and learn about all kinds of cool stuff. And in this science museum, they had a setup, apparently a dragster, where you could sit in the dragster and you had a TV screen in front of you, and it would measure with the Christmas tree that was in front your
Your
reaction
reaction
time.
time? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And he says, I remember seeing that car, and he says, I wonder which dragster that is. And I said, well, there's only one way to find out. So I went on the internet, found the website for the science center, called the
Yeah.
number, and Bart Bourne is the guy's name.
Uh huh.
Super nice gentleman. He's a ex-military and an extremely intelligent human being. He built all of the electronics, and this science museum was amazing. This guy was incredible. Anyway, so we had a great chat, and I said, this dragster, apparently you have a dragster in your museum or science center. And he said, yes, I do. I said, could you send me pictures? Because, I've always wanted to find my dad's old car, and I'm wondering if it's my dad's old car, because the last we heard, the car was sold to someone on Prince Edward Island, which is the
Oh
east
wow.
coast of Canada.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't have any pictures and I'm not really good at that. But he says, if you can get over here, which is like an hour's drive from here, he
Hmm.
said, you can look at it. So, sometimes in, I'm going to say late fall, it was starting to get cold. The building it was in was shut down because he had closed the science museum. There was some, I think his health wasn't 100%, and he had to, anyway, whatever. So I said, great. So I made an appointment, drove there, met up with Bart. We opened the building, we get inside, and I look at the car, and it's like, holy shit, this is my dad's old car.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So I said, listen, if you ever sell this thing, please call me. And he said, yeah, no problem. So, and I told him, it's my dad's old car, and I told him the whole story. Every year in April, May, I would call him and, check in, say, how's it going? How are things? And if you still have this car, and he, yeah, still got it. He was still thinking of reopening the museum, so he didn't really, want to sell it. And I'm going to say about 3 years ago, I called the number, and his
Hmm.
wife answered. And I said, hey, can I speak to Bart? And she said, Bart is, he's not well. He's in the hospital, and it's not really looking good. And I said, oh my God. I said, okay,
Mm.
well, look, sorry to bother you. I'll call later on, or just keep me posted. And she said, well, wait a minute. Are you the guy for the race car? And I said, yes. She said, well, Bart told me next time you call to sell it to you because they're selling the building, like the property that was on.
Oh wow.
And she needed to clear the building like sooner than later. So I think it was like that next weekend, or maybe it was like 2 weeks after, we drove there again with a truck and trailer, and my brother was with me, and my friend Dan, and my friend Chris from the island, and we all kind of went up in the museum there because it was on a second level. We had to take
Yeah.
walls down, and we took the car down and we put it on the trailer. And she said, um, I said, so how much do you want for the car? And she said, Bart told me to sell it to you for what he paid for it. And this is like, whatever, how long ago.
Right.
And I won't tell you how much money it was, but it wasn't much.
Yeah.
So anyway, I gave her more than what she was
Yeah.
asking. And so here is the car. It's stored up here because I got no room downstairs. But if anyone knows what a dragster is,
Right.
this is the let me see here. We're gonna try to get into it. So that's the rear portion of the car
Oh,
where the
wow.
roll cage is,
Yeah.
right there. And
That's
then the rest
wild.
of the car sticks out. You can see the whole side of the body here, and that's the rest of the car there.
And it had been repainted after your dad had the Blue Bayou stuff on
Yeah,
there.
yeah. This car was repainted, whatever, how long ago, and so it's the car. Like the front nose, which is this piece here,
Yeah.
um, that is very, very unique. And we immediately identified the car just by the front nose piece.
Wow. That's so
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
That's it's one of those things where it's like, when you're so immersed in the hobby and then collecting the history on things that, to us at some point seem like, yeah, I wonder whatever happened to it. And then you're able
Yep.
to track it down and there's some emotional pull to it, you know what I mean? And it being your
Oh
dad's
yeah.
car. That's super
Yep.
cool.
No, that was just, another story, I guess, of, how things can quickly happen if you're ready for it.
Yeah. Wow. Well, man, this has been it's been quite an experience. Of it's been good to get on here and chat with you, and
Yeah.
a lot of good stuff. And hopefully we'll connect sooner or later. And without a doubt, I'll be in Europe for Hessich this year, so I'm sure we'll see you over there. And
Yeah.
maybe if you get your
Planning
split
on
over, that'd be
doing
awesome.
planning on doing SEMA next year, of course, and love to do the RVA shows with Frank Espinoza and his crew.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
I know all of them, so we're looking forward to getting over there again and spending some time with them.
well, definitely. If you're ever by my way over here, to hit me up, come by, and you come take a look at the House of Horrors over here of all the modified custom and lowered cars that
Yeah.
I got here in the garage.
Cool.
But
Awesome.
no, hey, listen, Terry, it's been great having you on here. And if there's people want to are you on Instagram,
I am just under my name, Terry Gaudet, and I'll be launching my Lost
Facebook on
Boy
the side?
Bus podcast,
Oh, that's very cool.
um, which will be, interviewing people from cool places, and it's a mobile studio, I guess, and
Good.
I'm hoping to bring the technology that's out there to my bus so that I can do this properly and get
That's it.
good sound quality and good video quality.
Yeah, well, that's when we redid the Bull Run bus. That's what's been done to it. It's now going to be the Let's Talk Dubs bus. But
Okay.
yeah, if you got any questions for anything, man, by all means, I'm here as a resource.
Cool.
So let me know. We'll get you
Awesome.
set up. But yeah, it's been great having you on, man, and for sure we'll do this. Listen, I'm sure this won't be the last time. So
No,
we'll
we'll
have
keep
you
in
on
touch for
here.
sure. The Volkswagen hobby brings us in so many different directions.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. So, well, I appreciate you coming on. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, they can hit you up, Terry Gaudet on Instagram, or you're also on
Yep.
Facebook as well, right? So,
Yes, sir.
anybody out
Yep.
there in the New Brunswick area or something we talked about, you guys feel so inclined to maybe chase you down and ask some questions, they know how to get in touch with you. Well,
Sure.
cool.
Cool.
Well, hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time, and we'll do this again one day.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks.